All right, let's go to the internet section. I've been laughing about this for 2 days straight because it is just the most perfect story. A gift of altruism perhaps turns into a curse. Let's put this up there on the screen. So there's a remote Amazonian tribe which very recently was given access to the internet by Starlink and Elon Musk. It was viewed as a gift.
Some other donor who was the benefactor who gifted it, but yes, he gifted Elon Musk.
It was an Elon Musk Starlink to the Marubo people, which is deep. I'm gonna mispronounce this. It is, quote, huts scattered hundreds of miles along the Itu River deep in the Amazonian rainforest. They speak their own language, they take ayahuasca to connect with the forest spirits, and they trap spider monkeys to make soup or to keep as pets. They have preserved this life for hundreds of years through isolation. Some villages take up to a week just to reach. In September, they were given access to high-speed internet, and this is a 2,000-member tribe that is deep in Brazil. Well, it appears that since September, things have not been going so well, according to the elders. It seems that many of the younger folks are now hooked, quote, on porn and on social media. Some of the quotes in here are just fantastic. So here's some of the elders who are talking. When it arrived, everyone was happy. But now things have gotten worse. Young people have gotten lazy because of the internet. They are learning the ways of the white people. They say the Marubo are a very chaste tribe who frown even upon kissing in public. But now, ever since the arrival of the internet and of pornography, quote, young Marubo men have been sharing porn in I love how they already have group chats, and have already observed more, quote, aggressive sexual behavior. The elders say, we are very worried young people are going to want to try it, he says, of kinky sex acts that they have been exposed to on the screen. Everyone is so connected, sometimes they stop talking to their own family. They also talk about how social media and others has increased the amount of screen time that a lot of people are spending, and they are forgetting that they don't live the type of lifestyle you and I live, Crystal. They live an actual subsistence life. They're like, hey man, you gotta go fish. You gotta go hunt.
Oh, we're not
you gotta get your ass out there because we're old. You're the ones who are supposed to feed us, and you need to go catch everything. It's a relatively communal society. So this is like the perfect example of what happens when technology rolls in. It's a tale as old as time. We've got an indigenous way of life. There's actual balance with nature. And then what happens? Oh, the Russians come in and they happen to leave a bottle of alcohol there and a piece of metal. And boom, 10 years later, everything goes to shit. Every single time you read about something like this, it's almost never a positive development. And yet, you know, we can see in the most extreme way what this has done on a macro level to our overall society. So that's why I wanted to cover it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. First of all, whose crazy idea was this? You can't open the fire. Like, they got to start with some flip phones.
I don't know.
Some dial-up. You know, you got to ease into this stuff. You can't just go full internet, Starlink, at high-speed access. We had years to build up sort of a tolerance to this stuff.
We have antibodies to do it.
It's true. One of the things they talked about is people getting scammed. Because think if you live in this village and you know everyone and you have these communal relationships, like people have to be honest with each other because you have to see these people face to face. You rely on them for your own like life and ability to hunt and do the things that you need to do to survive. So the idea of like this random person on the internet is lying to me and they're scamming me must be so foreign. You see this with elderly people too. Like the things that we're sort of inured to and we'll see right off the bat is just a scam.
Oh, totally.
Older people, because they grew up in a different time when, you know, that type of scam wasn't prevalent, they don't have the same defense mechanism. You have to develop those things over time. So yeah, I think, listen, it's the New York Post. This may be really overstated.
No, it's from the New York Times. No. There's an underlying report.
I do want to say there's like, you know, I'm a little bit skeptical of some of the nature of the reporting, but I have no doubt that this has like turned their, you know, traditional lifestyle upside down. And I also have no doubt there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. No. Because as much as we know this technology comes with a million downsides that I'm struggling with my own kids and my own life, whatever, we also know it comes with like some really cool stuff. And it's like, you know, I'm not looking to get rid of my smartphone, and I'm sure they're not looking to get rid of their internet access altogether either, because it has had positive benefits as well, right? They talk about how they've been able to save lives. People get bitten by venomous snakes and now they can get help more quickly. They can actually, you know, bring someone in to help help people survive. They talk about how it's expanded the horizons of their young people also, where, you know, they have aspirations that they never would have been able to have before. And that can be a beautiful thing as well. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword.
Of course, we were talking about India in our previous segment. I'll mention this. So I was recently in India. The way technology and mobile payments has taken off is incredible, and so much to the benefit of the poorer classes in India. I watch them have cheap access that they can go on the street. Imagine there's like a cow and a donkey walking by, and you go to a guy who's sitting in a bamboo chair, and you buy a SIM card off of him, which has 200 megabytes of data for 100 rupees or something like that. And they have automatic, which is like $1, just for everybody who is watching. Then they put it into their phone, and they've got automatic like 5G plus internet. Half of these guys can barely read, but the ability for the cheap internet and access and all that, it's opened up job opportunities. It's given them the ability to not have to rely as much on cash. They pay each other through verified payments because corruption and scams are a big problem in India. My grandparents are very old. They're over 90 years old. They literally can WhatsApp the corner stores for what they want. The corner lady comes to their apartment door, and then he pays her on what? I'm watching my 94-year-old grandfather pay this lady on WhatsApp. There's no cash or anything exchanged. He doesn't have to leave his house.
That's amazing.
I mean, there's a lot of benefits, right? And this is in a very, very poor place. You watch how technology changed things instantly. Even villagers in the middle of nowhere whose parents literally cannot read are learning how to read off of YouTube videos in the middle of nowhere. It's shocking. I mean, they don't even have clothes on their back, and they're learning how to read on YouTube. So, like I said, there's a huge amount of benefit to this stuff. But what you watch is also the exacerbation of a lot of the worst parts of the internet and of what the damage that it can do, you know, to a society that doesn't have well-established norms and things around it. So if anything, what it highlights to me is for policy and for institutional and social norms to be formed around, let's emphasize the best parts. The best parts of the internet are communication, connection. I mean, we wouldn't exist. You know, this show would not even be possible 10 years ago. But we have to put guardrails and things around parents, society, schools, et cetera. How do we keep this stuff from the worst downsides? I highly recommend the Jonathan Haidt book. He's out. I think he's got a phenomenal, just like list there of things, how you should think of a parent around smartphones, and specifically with schools. It's obvious we should ban smartphones from schools. Like, just no question.
I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. We could put the next piece up on the screen, this study that just came out, which if you're a parent, like none of this will surprise you.
Right.
Internet addiction alters brain chemistry in young people, this study finds. I mean, it is an addictive behavior. And, you know, I see this with my kids. And it does, I think, tend to, in my experience with other, you know, parents and kids that I know, it tends to be the boys that have more of the addictive tendency towards the internet. My son, if I let him go, he would never, I'm not kidding you, like he would never step away from it. My daughters, they don't have to have the same level of concern and limitations because after they do it for what, they want to go do something in the world. Like it doesn't have that quite that same sticky, addictive pull. But what they found is that it will lead to a decrease in functional connectivity in parts of the brain involved in active thinking. That's the executive control network of the brain responsible for memory and decision making, and it fuels other addictive behaviors. So, you know, this is really profound for young people who are, you know, their brains are developing and, you know, you're setting habits and behaviors and neural networks that are going to need to serve them for their entire lives. And part of what we've done is because we've really opened the internet up to just whatever is going to serve capital, then you have companies that their whole business model is based on how do we fuel this addictive cycle. And, you know, no kid is going to be prepared for that. And as an individual parent, like the odds are stacked against you because of the way they're trying to literally manipulate like the brain chemistry of your kids. So it is a very difficult situation. You know, you mentioned the banning smartphones from schools, 100% agree. My son is going into middle school. We went to the middle school orientation. He's gonna be 6th grader next year. Big deal for me. I'm not ready for all that. Anyway, putting that aside, the one thing that I think it was the vice principal who's in charge of you know, disciplinary issues said is, please, I'm begging you parents, do not send your kid to school with a smartphone.
Yes.
He's like, you will not believe the things that I see. You will not believe what your kid might say on the messages they'll send, the photos they may, the things they may do on the smartphone. Like things that you never would have imagined, language that you never could have imagined, the way that interferes with their schoolwork and interferes with their personal relationships. These like, please, please, please do not send a smartphone with your kid to school. So I think that part to me is very clear.
Well, as a former 4chan kid, I can imagine it. And I definitely don't want those kids. Yeah.
When as a kid, you tend to be a little naive about these things.
As a kid who was on 4chan and Reddit way too early, I don't recommend it. But no, there are a lot of studies on this. I highly recommend. There's a bunch of New York Times and Jonathan Haidt write-ups about schools that have banned smartphones. If you've ever been to a Joe Rogan show, you have to put your phone in the Yonder bag. Yeah. That's another thing that a lot of schools are doing. So you can bring this phone to school, but they put the phone in the Yonder bag. Yeah. They unlock then. But apparently some kids are bringing 2 phones. So look, these kids are going to figure it out.
They have phones too that are, I mean, they're almost basically like, I mentioned the flip phone. They're almost like that.
Oh, like the call mom, call 911?
Yeah, where you really, it's very limited. Yeah. They can't load apps. They can't access the internet. There might be a few limited, like a map app and like a few limited things on there, and they can call and they can text, but that's really about it. And you've got access to like, so there are tools out there for parents, but it's just, it's a very difficult landscape. And if it's just you, and the kids are seeing what their friends all have access to, and it's part of the social fabric now of that generation. It is a difficult situation.
All right, let's talk about social media. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.